dia sempat mengambil cuti, kayak break sebentar, untuk menjadi volunteer di Vietnam. Juga pernah membantu untuk membuka sekolah Montessori di Vietnam. Ya benar misalnya ya. Is that right? In Vietnam, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I hope I get that right.
Kemudian tahun 2017, Misila ini pindah ke Surabaya dan mengajar di sekolah internasional di Surabaya. Nah, dan disitulah saya ketemu Misila. Saya guru di sana, Misila di sana, kemudian Misila jadi curriculum coordinator. Kami sama-sama sudah tidak bekerja di sekolah tersebut, tapi kami masih sering kontak, karena kami memiliki passion yang sama dalam pendidikan anak-anak, khususnya kami punya filosofi pendidikan yang sangat mirip. Jadi kayak saya tuh dia seperti mentor saya gitu. Nah, saya sendiri, nama saya Julian. Saya sendiri itu dulu lulusan psikologi S1. Kemudian saya sempat mengambil S2 pendidikan di New Zealand. Terus sekarang sih saya lagi homeschool anak saya. Tapi ketika pandemi mulai, saya mendengar banyak sekali cerita-cerita di mana orang tua itu merasa frustrasi karena anak-anaknya susah untuk sekolah online. Jadi saya merasa terbeban untuk membantu orang tua, gimana ya, supaya anaknya itu jangan sampai benci belajar gitu loh karena sekolahnya jadi online. Padahal saya merasa masa anak-anak itu mestinya diisi dengan bermain, karena begitulah cara mereka belajar, bukan malah stres dengan sekolah online yang sebenarnya bukan cara mereka belajar. Karena itulah saya mengajak beberapa teman untuk memulai Cultivate Parent Support Group, kemudian kita bisa sharing di sana. Saya juga bersama teman-teman yang lain itu bergantian memberikan webinar ya untuk sharing kita punya knowledge sama experience di bidang perkembangan anak. Jadi ya ini gitu aja deh, udah cukup kayaknya ya. Apa lagi? Oke, kita bisa mulai sekarang kayaknya ya. Langsung aja atau ada apa tambahan nggak, Diana?
Udah cukup kayaknya, Ju.
Oke, udah cukup ya. Oke, Misila, you want to start?
Yeah, okay. That was a very long introduction.
Well,
okay. I'm not used to very long introduction. But good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry, I cannot speak Bahasa. I could only try very little. Okay. So for this session, I'd like to make it as practical as possible. So I like interaction. So those of you who can turn their video on, please turn your video on if possible. Anyone? Because I like interaction. Yeah. I don't want to talk to myself anymore.
No, listen. And then
I've been talking to myself for the entire year.
Thank you.
Okay, that's nice. All right. Right. I really want to see who I'm talking with.
Yes, I know.
Okay, so I'm not really sure what Miss Julian said about me, but yeah, I'd like to thank Miss Julian for inviting me to this opportunity to meet every one of you and share my knowledge as a teacher, and also to be able to impart or share this knowledge to the parents, because this is our advocacy to be able to help parents, because we know that parents are so worried about reading.
Yes.
And our goal this afternoon is hoping that would take that worries out from everyone. That's our goal. Of course, we cannot impose that on you, but we are hoping that somehow we could help to ease the worries from the parents of children from 0 to 6 years old. I know some of you maybe have children who are older than 6 years old, but they have siblings. For today's session, our focus is on beginning reading or foundations of reading. Okay, so it's mostly for 0 to 6 years old. Okay, if I'm speaking too fast and you're not catching up, please feel free to raise your hands because we want everyone to benefit from this talk. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so before we start, we will have a little activity. Okay, we will wake our brains up a little bit. Okay, so I want you to have your paper and pen and your phone to take a photo of what I'm going to show you. Okay, so just give me a minute to share.
Okay, maybe
Okay, Miss Julian, would you like to translate a little bit?
Tolong kalau misalnya ada yang kurang jelas bisa langsung tuliskan di komen. Jadi kami bisa berhenti karena kami, Michelle tadi mengatakan kalau dia ingin semuanya bisa mendapatkan manfaat dari sesi hari ini. Jadi kalau misalnya ada yang kurang ngerti bisa langsung ditanyakan aja. Sekarang bagi yang memungkinkan tolong ambil selembar kertas sama pensil karena Michelle mau apa ya Miss, ada sedikit aktivitas jadi lebih praktikal ya.
Okay, so if you guys are ready, I'm gonna show you something. Perhaps you are seeing it now. So this experience, I want you to really feel and think about how you are figuring this out. Okay, so this activity is very overused. Okay, I've seen this from my mom. She has done it many, many times years ago when she used to have her school. And I think that it is very powerful for the parents to do in the beginning of the school year or to learn about reading. So I have here some codes for the alphabet. Okay, so A for the symbol. So I want you to take a picture of it, take a screenshot. Okay, so take a screenshot, have some time to look at the letters and their symbols. Because on the next slide, I'm going to show you something which I want you to decode. Okay, right. Take note of the word decode. And then once you have decoded and know the meaning of the symbols, I want you to raise your hand virtually here so that Miss Julia, Miss Diana, and myself can see that everyone has decoded the message. But do not tell anyone about it. Just keep it to yourself later. Okay? Have you already taken a screenshot or a picture of it?
All right.
Yes? All right? All good? Okay, so now, so take a picture so you have. There's a message there, Miss Julian. Just
di screenshot.
Okay, done.
Biar ada contekannya.
Okay, so now this is the message that I want you to decode. I want you to figure out what it means. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you about 3 minutes to do that. But when you're finished, raise your hand or we can extend to 5 minutes, okay?
Doesn't make sense, this one.
So make sure you have the screenshot, okay? I'm giving you the privilege of looking at it because it's a short period of time. So if you're finished, you can say done or raise your hand up so that we know. All right, someone has finished.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right, we have, oh, I see someone raised her hand and two have message done.
I'm done too.
Okay, great. Okay, let's give one more minute for everyone.
How can I check this?
I'm done.
Great. Okay, a few more seconds. Okay, let's go for 20 seconds.
Ini ada yang raise hand ya.
Yeah.
I'm not used to looking at the raise hand,
I can see it.
but I cannot see who raised the hands.
Okay, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Great. Okay, so I'll close this for now. So I'd like you to keep the message to yourself and we'll share it later, okay? But before I proceed with my presentation, okay, I like to do, when I conduct sessions or I have class, I always encourage everyone to move because movement is very important. So whatever we do today is something that you can do with your children at home as well. So movement, we're gonna do movement, we're gonna do breathing, and of course we're going to drink water. And then later I will tell you why these 3 steps are very important, okay? So again, if you could turn your video on, so I won't be doing this by myself. I'd like everyone to stand up. Stand up, please.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna move. If it's safe for you to move, because I know I saw someone in the car, so she's excused. All right, so those who can move, I can see someone already on a, what do you call that? Like, okay, so let's move. This one is for about 40 seconds movement, okay? This movement is actually good to balance our body. So you can do this with your child as well.
Miss, don't go too far from your laptop. Because your sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Right.
I want you to put your right foot forward and left foot at the back, and then bend down a little bit. Okay, and then your hand will be like this. So it's simple. We're gonna do the stationary running man. Okay, for 20 seconds, ready, as fast as you can. Ready, get set, go. Move. Move, everyone, fast. As fast as you can, faster. Faster. 10 seconds. Faster. 10 seconds, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 3, 2, 1. And then the other side. Left foot in front and right foot at the back. And the same thing. Let's move fast. Ready, go. Faster. As fast as you can. Faster. 14 seconds. It feels like the longest time of my life. Faster. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I actually cheated. There's 3 more seconds. Okay, now if you have water, I hope you have, please drink some water. Okay, great. Now, catch your breath. All right, once you've got your breath, I'd like you to open your palm like this. This is one of the breathing exercises that I do with the children. Okay, and it's something that you can do with your children as well. Let me catch my breath again. Hang on. All right. Okay. So open your palms, your palm, just one. And then your other finger from your other hand. And let's take a deep breath in as you trace up. Take a deep breath in. And breathe out as you trace down. Breathe in. And out. Breathe in. And out. Breathe in. And out. Breathe in. And out. Okay, so this activity is a 3-step exercise that you could do with your children to help them to focus. So if you're going to study with your child, anything that you want your child to focus with, allow them to move first, exhaust the energy. They can jump around, they can spin around, all the movement that they need to do, perhaps even longer than how we did today. And then allow them to take some water, drink some water, and do breathing exercises. That way, your child will calm down and be able to focus. Okay, so that's one thing that I want to share with you before we start. So how do you feel? Are you ready for the session this afternoon? Yes? Okay, so let's go back to the slide. Okay. So there, I will need some participants in here, okay? I need to understand what is your idea of reading. So when I say reading, what comes to your mind? Okay, please feel free to unmute yourself and share your idea of what reading is.
Ini ada yang Dea, silahkan.
Iya, Miss. Tadi raise hand untuk yang di code.
Oh,
Sorry, but if I heard the word reading, one thing that comes to my mind is understanding.
sorry?
Okay,
Understanding, okay.
All right.
Thank you, Dea.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else?
Vida ini bisa unmute.
Getting more information.
Okay, thank you. For me, reading is not only about read, but we have to know the content of we read. So we have to understand the text, and it can add add the information for ourselves, and we can share to others.
I love that. Okay, thank you for sharing that. That's very detailed. Anyone else?
Oke, ada lagi yang mau menjawab pertanyaan Miss Ila. Kalau mendengar kata membaca, apa yang ada di pikiran? Gitu ya kira-kira ya, Dia. Mana dia? Nah, ini hilang.
Ya, betul, Ju.
Ya, benar ya. Marisa, Marisa,
I
silakan.
see two participants raising hands.
Marisa ini.
Yes, getting information.
All right.
That we want, we need.
Great. Thank you.
Miss Nani Intan, silahkan.
Oh, the name sounds familiar.
Okay. I think when it comes to reading, it's also important to know who we are reading it to, what the contexts are.
I love hearing the word context. Anything else?
Ada lagi. Reading is for me is for pleasure.
Reading for
Pleasure. It's like
pleasure.
something that I like to do if I have the time.
You can always make time.
Huh?
You can always make time, but I know how busy moms are. Right. Thank you. Anyone else? I need 3 more.
Marisa, do you want to say something again?
Relaxation, because as we read the poetry or stories, something like that, fictional.
Great. Okay. Okay, 2 more please before we move on.
Ada lagi.
Miss Natalie.
Ya. Boleh nih.
Okay, I think understanding message.
All right. Type it.
May I share, Miss
Okay.
Julian?
Mm-mm.
Miss Sheila?
Yes, please.
Yeah, for me, reading is like we know the sound of a symbol and the meaning of that symbol. Thank
Love
you.
that. You guys are awesome. I don't need to do this workshop.
Let's just pause it. Bye-bye.
Finish. Okay. All right. Goodbye, everyone. No, this is amazing. Actually, in this talk, I will only be sharing three main ideas. Okay, and the 3 main ideas that I'm going to be sharing are already here. So I'll start with the last one, sound of the symbol and the meaning. Later on, you will hear that in the 3 ideas. Okay, know the content. So I love that content, understanding. There's information, and I love that sharing, because recently I've been reading books about brains, and they say that in order for us to learn faster and more efficient is for us to learn something or read something with the intention of sharing it or teaching it later. So this is awesome. You guys are amazing. Don't have to do this. Okay, and the understanding, right? We don't read without understanding. Okay, getting information that we want and that we need. Know who we are reading it to, the context. So here I could see like you guys know about the context. I love the context, the content, and pleasure and relaxation. Okay, that is amazing. So for our children, these are the things that we want them to feel, to know, and to experience about reading. But what concern us, I think this is one of the reasons why Miss Julian organized this. It's the same concern that I have and many teachers nowadays, is that we are pressuring our children to read. And the most famous way, any idea? Most famous way? Phonics. Right. So the most famous way that we teach children to read is to enroll them to a phonics class. And then at phonics class, they will be doing worksheets. They will be, yes, they will be doing games, which is awesome. But I'm telling you this straight right now, and I can see that from your idea of what reading is. Reading, there's more to reading than phonics. And we will find out what are those more. All right. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, so these are the three main ideas that we will be discussing this afternoon. Okay, we have here if you see this picture, okay, does it show you the idea that it is sound? Okay, I meant to do the slideshow, but never mind, it's okay. All right, so the first one is, oh, Miss Julian. Okay, let's, all right, there you go, sorry. Okay, so these three ideas that I'll be sharing with you, the first one is phonological awareness. Okay, from the word phonological or the phono, which means sound. Okay, we will go more into details later about sounds. And then we have here, if you see this picture, what comes to your mind? I'm just trying to figure out if my intended idea go across. Any idea, like when you see this, what comes to your mind?
Chemistry.
Astray.
Connecting the dots.
Connecting
Molecule?
dots, right.
Molecule?
Molecules, I love that. Okay, yeah, actually molecules, connecting dots, they have structure. Molecules have structures, right? So syntactic, or from the word syntax, that means structure. So we have sound, we have structure, and the last one from the structure, you will have the semantic. Any idea what semantic is? If you look at the picture?
Meaning.
Meaning, right? So here there's a structure, but there's no meaning yet. All right. Here on the semantic side, there's already a meaning. Now, does anyone need a translation on that? Or I could just move forward.
Everyone's good.
All good. All good. Okay, so we will go into details here. All right, hang on. So let's start with the syntactic, or from the word syntax, which means structure. So in this area or idea, there are two areas that I want to discuss with you. First is the morpheme. Morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning or grammatical function. So these are the affixes, or the, like for example, if I say boy, you would see the structure boy, and then later on you will understand, oh, it's a boy, one. But if you add the S, that will give you the meaning or idea that is more than one. If you have here the mark, you know the idea, okay, mark. If you put the affix or the suffix er, then you will think, okay, it's a marker. It's something that you use to mark. Okay, so it's very complicated, right? Okay, next we have here the grammar. So the grammar that we're talking about here is not just the English grammar, okay, but it is the structure of a language. And every language has different structure. Perhaps Filipino language has different structure compared to Bahasa or compared to English. So see, it's very complicated to read and understand, to have comprehension. And then let's move on to semantics. Okay, semantics, we have here the prior knowledge and the context. for us to be able to understand what we are reading, we need to have a prior knowledge about that topic or about that word. Otherwise, it will not make sense to us. Okay? And that goes as well for the context. You have to identify, you have to know what you are reading. I think someone mentioned that earlier on, right? If you get a book and you don't have any idea what that is, it will be difficult for you to understand. So now let's talk about your child, okay? If your child will be read to, so let's start, for example, your child is 0 to 3 and not reading yet, so you will be the one to read, right? You have to brief the child about the context of the book so the understanding will be easier. You have to gradually unfold that. Okay, we'll go into details about that later on. Okay, so we have here the structure and the meaning. So how do we teach this to a child or to our babies, to our children? Are we going to sit down? Oh, we have here the morpheme, we have here the context. Of course not. So how do we get them to learn this? Okay. Any idea?
Maybe I can. Wait. Miss, the rain is very heavy here. I cannot hear you clearly, so I have to put on my phone. So maybe I can explain a little bit because this is quite. I think this is quite important. Do
Yeah,
I need
sure,
to explain
please.
about the morpheme?
Yes, please.
Okay. So morpheme ini adalah unit terkecil dari dari bahasa yang mempunyai makna. Jadi tidak harus berbentuk dalam kata, misalnya yang boy itu kan memang kalau misalnya kita pakai boy aja itu sudah ada artinya sendiri, tapi S itu kan tidak memiliki arti kalau di luar kata boy. Tapi kalau kita menggabungkannya, maka S itu akan mempunyai arti, yaitu plural, nggak cuma satu boy kan. Jadi morfem itu seperti itu. Sedangkan grammar adalah struktur suatu bahasa. Karena kan struktur bahasa Filipina atau bahasa Inggris atau bahasa Indonesia kan beda-beda gitu. Kemudian kalau semantik ini berhubungan dengan knowledge kita sebelumnya. Untuk mengerti apa yang kita baca, kita mesti punya prior knowledge sama kita mesti mengerti konteks dari bahan bacaan itu. Oke, Michelle, I think that's enough.
All right. So later, or while I'm talking, I want you to reflect about the experience that I shared with you earlier on. How were you able to decode the meaning of the symbols that I shared with you earlier? Okay, so think about it. Did you use syntax or syntactic structure in there? Did you use semantic structures in there? Because someone, I took note of that, decoded it very fast. Miss Dea, I took down. Then, so I want to know later, how were you able to decode it that fast? Okay, later on. So let's go back. Okay, so let's move on. I think this is, what I was saying. So how do we get these children to, how do we expose the children to structure and semantics? So that's when, let's begin with, okay, when your child is still in the womb, you can even start reading your child or your baby when your child is still in your tummy. You can put a radio beside you to play good music because they will be able to hear that. They say that, I think it's the hearing is the first one and the last one to the first one to be developed and the last one that will go, okay, in our senses. So even if they're still in the womb, you can start reading them a story. When you are reading, you can articulate what you are reading so your child can hear it. And then when your child is already out there, you have to give them a lot of experiences about books, about language. So when you are actually breastfeeding your child, if you still have a newborn baby, you could talk to your child, look at your child, eye contact. You say, when your child is gonna latch, you say, ah. Okay, so they will hear the sound, they will see the structure of your mouth. Eventually, those sounds, those words will grow, and that will be planted in their mind. And that will form syntax, that will form structure. Whatever language you are talking or using at home, eventually they will learn that. So suddenly, sometimes a child will start talking before one. Sometimes a child will start talking after 1 year old, which is okay, especially in a multilingual context. Like if your family speaks different languages, normally a child speaks or children speak later compared to a family that speaks only one language. Okay, but when a child start talking, they're like Pringles. Once they pop, they cannot stop. So do not force your child if your child is still not talking at 1.5. Try to assess whether you are speaking different languages at home, or you are talking to your child directly. So this is very important. I'm really concerned about this when we have children at home and when we are talking to our children. We have to talk with intention, intention and attention. Okay, so we don't just talk and then walk, talk and then not talking to a child when you are talking to the child. It's very important that when you are speaking with your children or your child, you have to do eye contact. Go to their level. You have to enunciate the words that you are saying. Okay, because that will go, that you're banking that in their mind. You're banking a structure, you're banking meaning. So once they start talking, you will see, oh, now I see the structure. Now he or she is getting the meaning. Okay, so you might be thinking, okay, we're talking about reading. Why Miss Sheila is talking about listening and talking? Because these are the foundations of reading. You cannot expect a child to read without really exploring language or sounds around him or her before the formal instruction of reading. So if you have children from 0 to 4, 5, it is our duty to bank in language. So reading and language go hand in hand. You cannot separate them. Spoken language, written language, they go hand in hand. So it's very important. I have to highlight this, that while they're still at home, they need to be exposed to language, to stories, reading them stories every day. Even if you think they're not listening, as long as you continue with your intention of looking at your child, of going to their level, speaking slowly if you must, read it to your child with intention, you are banking that information. Okay, so let's move on to the very nitty-gritty part of this. And I'm sure you guys are interested in this. This is where phonics gonna go later on, okay? All right, the phonological awareness. I put it at the end or the last one. So remember, I told you there are only three main ideas that we're going to discuss. Syntax, which is the structure, semantics is the meaning, and now the phonological awareness or the sound. So basically nowadays when we talk about reading, mostly we start with English, right? In Indonesia, in the Philippines, and Singapore, these three countries that I've worked in, we start with English. In Vietnam, I'm very impressed that they start with their first language. And why I say I'm impressed, because speaking your first language is very important. And there are many researches that say if a child begin reading using the first language that they speak, they have more opportunity to learn. Like learning is faster and more meaningful. But of course, nowadays, especially in Indonesia and in the Philippines, like we must admit that children are watching YouTube, And so they're exposed to English language. So it's becoming their first language now, even if they're Filipino or Indonesian. English is becoming the first language because of YouTube. But I'm not encouraging you guys to let your child watch YouTube, okay? We'll talk about that later on. So there are about 44 speech sounds in English language. So imagine if you want your child to read and you're forcing your child to read at 3, I'm gonna go back to this. Are we teaching them that reading is pleasure? Are we teaching them that reading is for relaxation? Are we teaching them that reading is to understand message? Or we are telling them you have to read? Well, in fact, they're not reading when we enroll them or when we teach phonics, when we focus more on phonics. Phonics is very important, okay? But if we focus solely on phonics, that is more of decoding. Okay, someone gave this meaning, the sound of the symbol and the meaning. And that is decoding. Okay, so let's go to, am I clear so far?
Yes, it is clear for me. Anyone need translation so far? So Miss Sila menjelaskan kalau misalnya, ini saya catat sedikit ya. Kalau misalnya reading and language itu tidak dapat dipisahkan. Jadi kalau sebelum anak diajarkan untuk membaca secara formal, maka ada baiknya kita di rumah itu bank in itu kayak menabung kosakata mereka yang banyak. Apakah itu spoken language atau written language, kata-kata atau bahasa secara tertulis maupun bahasa lisan, kita harus memberikan input yang banyak karena membaca dan bahasa itu tidak dapat dipisahkan. Jadi cara untuk mengekspos language ke anak-anak itu tadi Miss Ila sudah jelaskan kalau dari bayi itu ngajak ngomong gitu kan. Jadi kita mesti mengekspos anak ke banyak bahasa sehari-hari. Kemudian kita juga harus membacakan buku setiap hari. Bahkan ketika mereka kelihatan tidak mendengarkan, sebenarnya asal kita secara intensional kita membacakan untuk mereka, pasti ada yang mereka dapatkan dari situ. Kemudian tadi Miss Ila juga mengatakan tentang membaca first language ya. Misalnya kalau kita kan mestinya anak itu bisa membaca duluan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Nah, itu menurut penelitian itu sebenarnya lebih baik kalau anak itu bisa membaca dalam bahasa Indonesia dulu, karena nanti dia akan mendapatkan lebih banyak opportunity atau kesempatan untuk belajar. Menurut penelitian begitu katanya. Terus kemudian Diana tolong atau teman-teman yang lain bisa menambahkan kalau saya ada yang salah ya. Karena saya sambil melihat WhatsApp dan yang lain-lain juga ini. Kemudian tadi Miss Ila juga mengatakan kalau misalnya kalau kita ingin anak kita cepat-cepat membaca, misalnya pada usia 3 tahun, apakah kita mengajarkan mereka atau message apa nih yang kita kirim ke mereka? Apakah reading itu atau membaca itu adalah untuk kesenangan, untuk pleasure? Apakah pokoknya kamu harus bisa baca gitu loh. Padahal sebenarnya untuk anak usia 3 tahun mungkin mereka bisa baca itu bukan karena mereka bisa baca, tapi mereka hanya bisa decode. Decode itu apa ya Miss Ila ya? Untuk kayak mereka seperti yang tadi kita lakukan ini loh, pakai apa sih tadi kode-kode itu loh. Jadi mereka tuh sebenarnya bisa decode, tapi mereka belum tentu ngerti artinya. Decode itu apa ya? Ya dia mereka bisa satu-satu tuh mereka bisa tahu oh ini A, ini B, ini C gitu kan. Tapi sebenarnya belum tentu tahu artinya. Gitu. Oke. Ada yang bisa menambahkan atau mau menambahkan atau saya menjelaskan yang salah, tolong dikoreksi ya teman-teman ya.
Right, thanks Miss Julian. So now let's move on to phonological awareness. So there are 5 levels of phonological awareness. Let's begin with the less complex activities. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you have to do it like at 1-year-old and 2 years old. No, you have to do it like all throughout the early years, okay? But the less complex activity, which you can actually do when your child is still 1-year-old or 2, while they're still at home and still not going to school is rhyming and alliteration. Okay, I'll go into details on that later on. And then sentence segmentation. Then we go to syllables. I'll discuss that later on. Okay, so onsets and rhymes. And then the nitty-gritty, actually for me, you have to leave that to the preschool teacher. When your child is in kindergarten, that's their job, okay? But you could actually do that while they're still at home. That is phonemic awareness. And phonemic awareness is also a big topic, okay? You can see that there's blending of sounds, there's segmenting words into sounds, there's deleting and manipulating sounds in spoken words. Now let's begin with rhyming and alliteration. Okay, rhyming and alliteration. I need a volunteer, not Miss Julia, not Miss Diana, but a participant. Okay, I want someone, I'm very demanding, right? I want someone to read this for me and for everyone, please.
Ayo, siapa yang mau volunteer? Anyone?
Come on.
Ngomong-ngomong, Desi. Yang videonya nyala. Mam Sarah atau Miss Sarah atau Mbak Sarah?
Come on, don't be shy. It's just us.
Siapa aja nih boleh?
Can I volunteer? But I cannot show my video.
Oh, sure,
Okay.
no problem.
Okay. I don't need to sing it, right?
Oh, if you could sing it, that would be
No.
nice. But if you don't want, it's okay.
Okay. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such fun, and the dish ran away with the spoon.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. So this one is one of the famous nursery rhymes, okay? Nursery rhymes are very important. Do not discount this. They are there for a reason. So if your child are at home, please play nursery rhymes, but don't let them watch on YouTube, okay? Play that on the background while they're playing. Or the best is really to sing along and then let them fill in the blank. So let's see, what are the rhyming words in this rhyme? Miss Julian, please, what are the rhyming words? Can you tell me?
There's a participant who cannot join us.
Oh, okay.
Yana can help. Yeah, I can. Moon and spoon.
Moon. Okay. Let's make it red and spoon.
Spoon.
Okay,
Diddle and fiddle.
Diddle and fiddle. Very good. Thank you. Diddle and I'll put red. Fiddle, diddle and fiddle. Okay. So rhyming words are the words that rhyme at the end of the word, like diddle, fiddle, moon, spoon. So when you're doing, when you're singing or reciting a nursery rhyme with your child at home, you can say, hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle. The cow jumped over the moon. And the children actually love that because the only word that they actually remember when they listen, or they remember everything, but they can enunciate or pronounce the last word. So if you notice, when a child is speaking, it's always the last sound. So that's the very best opportunity to teach them rhymes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was at my last school in Surabaya, I noticed this along with my expat co-teacher, that it was difficult for us to teach the rhyming words to the children. So we are wondering, actually, do you do that like in the Bahasa, your language? Are there a lot of rhymes?
I actually just realized a couple of months ago that we actually have Indonesian songs, like the children's songs, when I was at school, but I don't know, like we don't sing it at Ethan House, but we have Indonesian children's song that rhymes. It's just like, I cannot remember it because at school we don't use bahasa, but then, and when I search Indonesian children's song, they are actually good rhyming children's song in bahasa.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I was just wondering because it's so funny or it's so ironic, I would say, that they remember more of they remember alliteration more. Alliteration is the first or the beginning sound. Like in this nursery rhyme, we have here the cat, the cow. So when I was teaching in kindergarten, they were in kinder 1, they easily identify the beginning sound, the alliteration, more than the rhyming words. So that for me, that was ironic because in my experience outside Indonesia, it's easy for the children to identify the rhymes than the alliteration. So it's something that I'm thinking, like I'm wondering whether it's a context in Indonesia and the context outside. You see, that itself has context, in my observation, like as simple as that. So perhaps these children are more exposed to this, and the children outside Indonesia that I work with are more exposed to the others. And here also like the dog and the dish. So those are the alliteration. So these are the things that you can expose your children into, listening to rhymes. And I will say it again, not on YouTube. Why? Because they tend to just memorize it on YouTube because it's very, what do you call it? It's very, yeah, like the visual and yeah, so they easily actually get it. They memorize it. So it's like playing in their mind. So it's good, but too much exposure to that, I would say if your child is still below 2 years old, if possible, no YouTube at all. But I know I understand because I have niece at home and I struggle on that, but at least minimize to 30 minutes a day. That is really the maximum you could give them. So what do you call it? Staggered it, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon. Or what you can do is play it on the background, but don't let them watch because it has influence in their behavior. So later on, if they get used to watching YouTube, one moment you'll see your child throwing tantrums. The moment you turn your YouTube off or your video off, that's when the fight begins because they are overly stimulated. And then suddenly you turn it off. Like gradual turn off of stimulation. They are not just making you mad. There's something going on in their mind that is difficult to manage for them. That's why you see them throwing tantrums. Or if you think, oh, she's giving me a headache, she's, all these things. So as much as possible, minimize that if you want to expose them to rhymes. Okay, you can play that you can download that and then play it on the background. All right, and then books. So there are many books with rhymes and alliteration. When you're reading, as I said earlier on, you have to show the child the book. Make a connection. Sometimes some books don't even have words. You can talk about the books. What do you see? I see this. What do you think? What do you think about this picture? And then eventually you highlight the rhymes. Emphasize the rhymes. Okay? Any questions on that?
Oke, mungkin aku jelaskan sedikit tentang sebentar. This is a troublesome. Maybe I'll just explain a little about rhyming and alliteration, Miss. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oke, so rhyming tadi seperti yang Misila jelaskan adalah kata di akhir, bukan kata ya, suara di akhir kata yang mirip ya, diddle, fiddle gitu ya. Sedangkan alliteration itu di awal, kayak cow sama cat itu sama-sama C gitu ya. Jadi bedanya itu. I think that's enough, Miss.
All right. So let's move on to the next one.
Mm.
Sentence segmentation. So as you remember, we talked about the syntax or the structure of the grammar. So when you talk and you want to convey an information or idea, you speak in a sentence, right? And a sentence is composed of words. So when your child is still young, you begin with words. So you can do this with your 2 years old, 3 years old, like reading a book, for example. This one is Dr. Seuss Hop on Pop, something like that. So they have very minimal words that you could emphasize to your child. So let's read. Okay, you can tell your child, I'm going to read the story. Then read it with pleasure so that you demonstrate. Remember, we said reading is for pleasure. It's for fun, right? It's something that you enjoy doing. So you have to demonstrate that. We don't just tell the child, okay, reading is for fun, yeah? You have fun reading. No, we demonstrate that. So if we are forcing them to read, definitely they will grow up being forced to read and they don't love reading. But if you put books around your house in a nice manner, sorry, I went away from this topic. I just have to say this. So the way you can encourage your children to read or get book, because that action of getting book and browsing, that's already reading. That's pre-reading exercise. Okay. So if place the books nicely in your living room, place nice magazines that they can browse through. Do not put your books at the top shelf that they cannot reach. Make the books, the magazines, and other good reading materials within your children's reach, that they are accessible. But of course, do not put books there that is so expensive that you don't want to get ruined. Of course, those something that you can let your child hold and explore, because we don't want to put an expensive book there and then suddenly it got stained or it got torn and then you will scold your child. Well, in fact, it's not her or his fault, right? So that's one way of encouraging children to read or love books. So anyways, if you have books there, you can ask your child, okay, today mama or yeah, papa has time, let's read together. Okay, would you like to choose a book for us to read? Then of course you have your intention, you already put the books there that you want your child to pick up, but you have to give like variety options, but you have your intention. So probably you put a book like this, so the child pick it up. Okay, let's read this. Okay, let's read. Wet. So make sure when you're teaching your child or when you're reading to your child, point to the word from left to right. It's very important. That movement of the eyes from left to right is very important. I'll talk more about that later. So wet, get. Two dogs get wet. Now, so you read the book, for example, you finish that, you enjoyed it, you talk about the pictures. Oh, look what happened to them. How many dogs were there? Oh, I see 2 dogs. What do you see? And then have fun, demonstrate pleasure. Yes, look, they're getting wet. So after reading the book, this time, let's play a game. Okay, mama will read the story and then let's clap the words. Okay, so 2 dogs get wet. They yelp for help. You see, you have moved on to the next level. There's rhyme, there's alliteration in there. And then now you are segmenting the sentence. Well, how many words did you hear? 2 dogs get wet. Right, there are 4 words. So see, you're teaching your child to read already and enjoy reading. And it's a game, it's a bonding experience for the both of you. Now let's move on to, I think I skipped let's go back to syllables. So from words, now each word has a syllable or has syllables. Like for example, phonological. That has phonological, 5 syllables. Okay, so when your child has gotten used to clapping the words in a sentence and being able to recognize them, then you can move on to the smaller unit of sounds. Okay? You can do the syllable clapping if you want. So in reading, what we do is for syllables, for words, we clap because it's big. For syllables, you can snap because it's smaller, right? So you can snap. Or if you want to make the word bigger, then you can like tap your lap and then syllables will be clapping. So you are giving them the idea that word is bigger than a syllable. And word is composed of syllables. And the very best way to start is their name. And they love it when they have a lot of syllables. Like for example, Sheila, or Sheila, Julian. And in school, they love it. Oh, how many syllables do you have? And they make it like a competition. Oh, I have more. So at home, you can do that as well. Okay, are we getting that? Am I clear on that?
I need to explain a little.
All right, sure.
Maybe ya ada sentence. Jadi ini kan kita misalnya lagi menjelaskan tentang 5 level phonological awareness. Yang pertama tadi kita sudah bahas itu rhyming dan aliterasi, rima dan aliterasi ya bahasa Indonesianya ya. Kemudian yang selanjutnya adalah sentence segmentation. Ini itu bagaimana suatu kalimat itu terdiri dari berapa kata. Jadi kita bisa lakukan ini dengan fun ya. Jadi kalau misalnya baca sama anak itu kita mesti demonstrate kalau kita itu senang membaca. Jadi bukan karena kita pengen ngajarin anak, maka kita itu jadi punya punya goal kalau kita tuh lagi baca sama anak, kita tuh pengen ngajarin. Nah, itu biasanya akan ada pressure, sehingga kalau anak-anak merasakan pressure dari kita itu udah nggak fun lagi gitu loh, karena itu bukan reading for pleasure namanya kan, itu reading untuk belajar gitu kan. Ya walaupun kalau misalnya mereka having fun, sebenarnya mereka justru belajar lebih cepat dan lebih banyak gitu kan. Sentence segmentation misalnya tadi Michelle contohkan, ketika baca, tapi ini nggak usah setiap kali baca buku, satu buku itu semua digituin ya, jadi nanti nggak fun lagi karena akhirnya terpotong-potong yang mereka baca. Misalnya, two dogs get wet, jadi kayak setiap kata itu satu tepukan, jadi mereka tahu kalau misalnya dari kalimat itu ada 4 kata. Nah, sedangkan tadi yang selanjutnya setelah sentence segmentation itu adalah suku kata, jadi dalam satu kata itu ada berapa suku kata. Nah, itu bisa pakai cara lain karena kan suku kata lebih kecil daripada jumlah kata. Itu membantu mereka untuk mengenali, untuk membangun phonological awareness yang diperlukan untuk membaca nantinya. Oke, Miss.
All right, thank you, Miss Julian. So let's move on to the onsets and rhymes. It's quite similar to the rhyming and alliteration, but this one is more it takes a lot of work for them already. So if they're not exposed to rhyming and alliteration when they were younger, when they're not exposed to word segmentation, it will be difficult for them to do this. It might be difficult for them to, because if you can see, this is more of the phonic side. Okay, so here the onsets is the beginning sound. So most words have onsets. So the beginning sounds of consonant and cluster, like ball is a consonant, cluster is here, dr is a cluster, th is a digraph. Okay, so those are the onsets, but some words do not have onsets. They only have rhymes. You notice here the rhyme here is R-I-M-E-S, like or, okay, eat, so they only have rhymes. Ear, so here they have onset and rhyme. So the onset, sorry, I have echo. Okay, the onset first, hang on, why am I echoing?
It's me, Miss, sorry.
All right, sure, sorry.
Okay.
All right, so the onset is the first vowel after, I'm sorry, the rhymes is the first vowel after the consonant, okay? And all the rest of the letters. So B is the onset or the beginning sound, and all is the rhyme. So if you expose your children to that, you play with like I spy game. I spy with my little eye something that begins with B, and then give more description. These are something that you don't have to sit down. Okay, 4 o'clock, it's study time. No, I want you to do this. Very demanding. I want you to do this. sorry for the word. So I'd like you to do this in such a way that is fun. Like when you're, for example, having snack, when you're eating your snack and look around, like drinking your juice, eating something. Oh, I spy with my little eyes something that begins with C or K. It is colorful. It flows with the wind. Can you guess what it is? Curtain. And they love it because it's like a game and they're making connections with you. But like what I said, do it for pleasure. And also eating time is take that opportunity to connect. Take it as an opportunity to teach, to learn, because everything you do, every waking hour of your child and ourselves is a learning experience. We don't have to wait, okay, 10 o'clock, study time, let's sit down, let's sit on your chair, sit down properly, sit straight. And then when your child moves up, sit straight. I've seen that many times. But I know the pressure. I know the pressure that school, sadly, are putting on to the parents and the society is putting on to the parents, right? And the teachers as well. But we're trying to make this this activity that Ms. Julian organized and Ms. Diana is a movement for us to learn together and make a change, right? That we want to give a good experience for our children so that they'll grow up having a good experience about learning. All right, so going back to this. So this one is not something that you have to sit down and write. Do it for pleasure. Another thing is when you're taking a bath, when you're showering your child, that's also an opportunity. Listen to the water as it falls from the shower, listening to sounds outside, listening to the birds, listening to the nature. Bring your children a lot to nature, even to the rustling of the leaves, the wind. If you are quiet and still outside, that's an opportunity for you to teach your child and play games like this. Okay, so onsets and rhyme, are we clear on that?
Well, I don't know how to translate rhymes because I don't know the word in Bahasa. But yeah, I can explain like how you give example for us how to do it. Like ya, jadi teman-teman kalau misalnya ini kan sudah stage lebih lanjut dari phonological awareness tadi kan, kita bisa misalnya sangat menekankan. Jadi kita berdua ini sangat percaya ya kalau anak-anak tuh belajar itu melalui bermain. Jadi kita kalau mau ngajarin mereka tentang ini tuh bukan kayak oh sekarang jam 10 waktunya belajar jadi harus duduk diam dan belajar gitu. Bukan. Jadi santai aja. Misalnya kita lagi makan siang atau kita lagi kasih snack atau lagi mandiin. Nah, itu kita bisa point out things around them aja yang ada. Misalnya ball ini kan kita ajak main aja, misalnya bisa nggak kalian bisa menemukan nggak benda it's hard to translate to bahasa, Miss. Can you find something that start with letter something like that, right, Miss? Jadi
yes.
Ya, bisakah kamu menemukan kalau kalian lagi ngajarin bahasa Inggris, ini kan kita dalam konteks bahasa Inggris ya, berarti pakai bahasa Inggris aja sekalian. Bisa nggak cari kata yang start with letter B, apa misalnya. Jadi minta mereka untuk menebak, tapi ini bukan jadi bedakan antara kita mau nebaki mereka, mau bedain, mau ngetes, sama kita memang mau main sama mereka. Jadi ini tuh untuk have fun, karena kalau konteksnya kita mau nebakin kayak untuk ujian, itu akan jadi sangat berbeda gitu. Ada tambahan nggak ya yang Diana atau gimana? Karena ini aku find it quite hard to explain this one. Itu bahasa. Oh, is it clear? Okay, we can move.
Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free to chat so that Ms. Julian and Ms. Diana could read them, and then we could address the questions or ideas. If you want to share, we could address them. Right, so let's make it interactive. Okay. All right, so now let's go. Hang on, let's go back to this one first. Yeah, so you see there, blending sounds. So when you do the onsets and rhymes, you are actually beginning to show them that, okay, words can be, sounds can be blended to form a word. And then you're also like segmenting. You have shown that. You see, it's like a ladder. All right. And then deleting and manipulating. So even if you're not sitting down and writing that with your child, when you say book all, you're actually segmenting and deleting and manipulating the sounds in spoken words. So now let's go to the nitty-gritty part. I'm not gonna teach you how to teach this because that's the teacher's job. Just kidding. Okay, phonics, that's where you mostly enroll your child. Okay, but I would suggest phonics is more of already a formal teaching. Okay, it's not something that I encourage you to do while your child is still 2 years old or 3 years old. The best that you can do is really do this steps. Okay, follow the phonological awareness. But here, phonics, if you can see, it's the understanding that there is a predictable relationship between phonemes. Phonemes is the sound of the spoken language, and graphemes. So I think it was Miss Francisca who said that here in the beginning when she said sound of the symbol and the meaning, right? So there, let's go back. Graphemes, the letters and the spelling that represents those sounds in written language. So I'd like you to recall what you experienced a while ago when we did the activity. Would anyone want to share how did you decode the words or the message?
Anyone wants to share?
Volunteer? Because I have 3 names in here. Those are the ones who finished first. Volunteers, please.
Oh, Miss. Volunteers, okay. Maybe you remember which one who
finished first. I have here Miss Dea, Miss Eka, and Miss Natalie. Natalie or Natalia?
Miss Dea, do you want to volunteer?
Okay, should I read the decoding sentences?
Yes.
Sorry, yes, okay.
So,
thank you for joining us. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
Right. So how were you able to decode that? Was it easy for you? So talk to us. How were you able to figure it out that fast?
Okay. Firstly, when I saw the alphabet, all the code, I knew that that they are the Hebrew alphabet, right? And then, although I am not speaking Hebrew at all, so firstly I decode the alphabet one by one, and when each word I got like three first alphabet, I knew like the first one is Fang. When I decoded the T, the H, the A, I already know that it is Fang. So I'm not decode the rest of the word. So the second word consists of 3 alphabets. So it must be you because the first one is Fang, and it usually followed by you. Okay, and then the third word is 3 alphabet also, and the first alphabet is F. So I assume I think it's 4. Okay, I write 4, and then for the fourth word, the 3 first alphabet is J, O, and I, and I just know it must be joining, and the rest is 2 word eyes. It must be us. So so like that. I think yes, the first thing that why I can decode it so fast is first that I understand the context first, why I am joining this class. So usually at the first or I mean at the first time the speaker will what do you say it will say something nice to us, so it must be something that welcoming us as the participants. So yes, a lot of assuming in when I decoded this this sentence, I think. So
So when you
yeah.
right. So next time when I do this, I will prepare a mean message. Just kidding.
Yeah,
But it's
maybe
true.
yes, maybe not mainstream message, I think.
Not
Yeah.
predictable, right?
Yep,
But
yep,
it's
yep.
true.
Yeah.
So in your experience, this also applies to everyone. Did you see the 3 things that we discussed when you decode? Did you experience syntax clues, syntactics, semantics, and phonological awareness? Did you use those 3 system when you read that or decode
Mm,
that?
yes, I think I used the struct what's the
Structure,
first one? The structure, yeah.
syntax, right?
Yeah, the syntax. And I think it's the most thing that I use is I just assuming like I said first that when I got three alphabet right, and I just know that the rest it will be this, and I just connecting them into
Right.
a right sentence, and it's not right. just like that. I don't really understand how the my mind works in detail, but I feel like that. Yeah.
I can see
Right.
how the prior knowledge and context that they already know, have a prior knowledge about event like this, about speakers, what usually speakers do, and also the context, like we're having a webinar, and then yeah, it's like, so that's the
Yes.
semantic. And
Yes,
the
there's
syntax,
a lot of information that we process in our brain when we decode something, I think.
Yes. So actually, do you think you will be able to decode it if you don't have prior knowledge? If you don't know the structure of the English language, do you think you will be able to decode it as quickly as that?
I don't think so, because
Right.
the prior knowledge of language is very important for us for decoding like a word or a sentence. Cause I've read somewhere that when even if we read or see a jumbled alphabet or a jumbled alphabet in a word, as long as the first word and the last word is the right one, then we can decode it. Maybe some of
Right.
you have already know that information. I think
Yes.
something like that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So I see that even though you say you're assuming, we cannot assume something if we don't have a prior knowledge about a
Yeah.
thing. So if
Yeah.
you notice, decoding there is more of the phonics activity, right? Like being able to see the symbol, understand the symbol, and know the sound of the symbol and combining them. That's decoding, and it's not reading yet, right? Because reading is you're able to decode and understand the meaning, and you're able to articulate it and share. So we talked about it early on. Someone has already said that. So here, without prior knowledge of the structure of the English language, without the prior knowledge of what workshop or seminars messages could be, and without understanding that, you won't be able to decode the message very quickly, right? So it's the same thing when a child begins to learn phonics without exposure to without exposures to this, without exposure to the syntax of the language or semantic, how do you think do they feel learning phonics?
It doesn't make sense.
Right? If I give you a symbol, actually normally I make random symbols, but I just grab on in the internet. But anyways, right, I made it really simple so that you can easily um, get the meaning, right? But even though it's not very, like, it's not instant that you read it the way we will read phonological awareness written in the English alphabet, right? It takes effort. So assuming, or let's say that we don't have prior knowledge about this, we don't know the structure of the language, we don't have the knowledge about meaning of the language. It's the same with your children. When you force them in the beginning, like when they're still very young and not exposed to language, you did not exercise all this with your child, and you are doing phonics, let's sit down, let's read this. Can you imagine the discomfort that we are giving the children if we jump into phonics? It's not that I discourage phonics, because that is very important as well. And I'll tell you later why. I'm just highlighting because I've seen this many times in many families that I work with. At 3, they're already enrolling their child to do phonics at school. And some tuition centers, they actually just do phonics. They don't really integrate literature in there. It's not whole language approach. They just focus solely on the blending of the sounds, identifying the sounds, more of this. It is a very big and more complex activity for the child, but they must have this foundation in order for them to have this. And for you, actually, if they have this, it will be easy for them. If they see, oh, B, B, they know that. If you're reading to them when they're still 1 year old, 2 years old, and so on at home, and you're reading to them, you're pointing, you don't really have to emphasize it. You are banking that information. And once they need it, it will just come out. And it will be easy for them to do this part, this stage of the phonological awareness. All right. So why I'm saying that phonics is very important as well. So like Miss Dea was saying, she is assuming, right? So sometimes when they look at words, because we already know that, so perhaps you have been reading to your child, he or she is exposed to written and spoken language, then he or she is able to read it very fast. Now this is where the phonics should come in. That's when you have to focus on phonics for your child to be able to spell words correctly. Because there's always a tendency that they're able to read. So we think like, oh, she's very good at reading. She can read it with comprehension and all that. But the moment you ask the child to spell, when he or she is at 5 or 6 or 7 years old, then you will be surprised. You think that it's a simple word, but your child cannot spell it. Because the children also need phonics. So it's still important, but they need to have that strong foundation in order to focus on phonics, right? Because that's really a big work for them to do. But if they have that, so you're doing a whole language approach. You're doing a holistic approach to learning. So reading is not just reading and it's not just decoding, but it's decoding, understanding, and sharing. It's learning, right? We're not be, perhaps we'll not be able to learn as much if we're not able to read, right? Okay, I meant to say something, but I lost it. Do you have any questions so far? We might go over time.
Well, we have questions before the session start. Do you want to answer now or later, Miss?
Okay, later. But
Okay.
regarding phonics, is it clear? Are we clear on that? Did I make a clear connection of the activity in the beginning? Did we see the connection of these three ideas or three systems in reading and their importance?
Ada pertanyaan nggak ya?
Say yes to the chat if I made the connection clearly, because sometimes like maybe I'm thinking too fast and I wasn't able to get the meaning across. Say yes if you see the connection of the three ideas that I shared with you with the activity that we did in the beginning. Say yes or no.
Hello.
Chat, please. Are we here?
Ada yang bisa jawab nggak? Ini kira-kira ngerti nggak ya tadi dari aktivitas pertama yang Miss Sheila ajak kita main, yang decoding itu, apa hubungannya sama Phonological Awareness, Semantics, sama Syntactics tuh pada ngerti nggak ya? Jadi kayak Miss Sheila ini mau kita mengerti gimana sih anak tuh belajar baca tuh juga kayak gitu loh. Jadi tapi kita nggak bisa melompat langsung ke phonics karena seperti tadi Miss Dia juga jelaskan kan, kita masih ada prior knowledge juga, mesti ada yang lainnya juga, ada foundation-nya dulu. Jadi sebelum bisa mengerti apa yang mereka baca itu, sebelum mereka diajari phonics itu seharusnya mereka tuh belajar yang lain dulu gitu loh, di-expose sama banyak language dan segala macam. Ada yang mau, ini masih di sini nggak? Hello. Jam berapa ya ini?
Type yes or no so that we could clarify, because my intention for this is to get my message across. Because if we did not really understand what we discussed today, that doesn't really make sense of doing this. So I'd like to ask a favor. If you understand the essence of what we're discussing, just type yes. If you need clarification, say no. Please type, I need to see. All right? Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I ask something?
Yes, please, Miss Fida.
Before I heard that before learning reading for English, the kids have to learn reading for bahasa, right? For what reason? Because as I know, some parents want their kids to learn reading from English. Some parents who educate their kids in international school, they want their kid learn reading from phonics first. So that's why I asked, why not in bahasa first, and for what reason?
Thank you for asking that questions, because it makes me like reflect on the way I discuss as well, right? So it's not a must. So what I'm saying, it's not, I'm not saying that they should read in Bahasa first. But what I'm saying is that a child must be read to in the first language that they speak. For example, in your family, you speak Bahasa. It's nice to explore that language. It's not a must, like you only do that. No, it's what I'm suggesting is that if you speak Bahasa, you could read stories in Bahasa as well. But you could also read stories to your child in English. But what I'm saying is that encourage that growth of first language so that the child will develop confidence in the language that he is speaking. Because a child can easily switch. Once the child has mastered one language, he can easily switch. So for example, your child is still, I'm talking about 1 or 2 years old here, okay? Because sometimes if you're speaking in Bahasa and then someone is speaking in English or other language, the child will be very confused. And it will take time for your child to speak or to talk. There's always a big chance. So if your child is speaking in Bahasa, encourage that. Show that there are also literature in Bahasa. Like Miss Julian was saying, there are rhymes in Bahasa, right? Because if they understand that, they will develop confidence. So the moment you read English, they will also take pleasure on that. But if you introduce something that is not familiar to your child, for example, your child is speaking Bahasa totally, and then you're forcing your child to read English straight, then he or she may not have a good experience with the language because it's difficult. So the reason there is just to encourage and to bring out confidence. Ms. Julian, would you like to clarify further?
Oke, jadi yang saya tangkap dari apa yang Misila katakan adalah membiasakan anak dengan bahasa ibunya dulu itu membuat supaya anak tuh lebih confident dulu sama kemampuan dia berbahasa gitu loh. Karena kalau seseorang itu sudah punya kepercayaan diri terhadap kemampuannya berbahasa, itu anak akan dengan gampang menguasai bahasa lain. Jadi bukan nggak boleh untuk bilingual itu bukan nggak boleh, tapi kalau misalnya dia tidak merasa nyaman dengan bahasa asing yang dia tidak tahu, terus tiba-tiba diajarin bahasa itu, diajarin membaca bahasa itu, dia udah ada perasaan tidak percaya diri duluan gitu. Correct me if I'm wrong, friends. It's very loud. My neighbor is being very loud now. Sorry.
And okay. I would like to add also, because Miss Vida also mentioned, like, you know, many parents enroll their children in international schools for them to speak English. So that's the time when you enroll your child. They're probably about 3, 4. And yes, it is the duty of the teachers in international school to expose them to English language. But to be honest, in the beginning, we have to, like for me, when I work in Vietnam and in Indonesia, in the beginning, if the child doesn't really speak English, I don't force myself straight to the child, because I'd like to develop a relationship first. So like in our school before, there's a local teacher who will be working with me to be able to speak to the child. And eventually, because our children can pick up language so easily and so quickly, there's this term like shift, and like they could just shift their mind with the codes and language, right? So we're clear on that? Anything else? But thank you for that question. That's really meaningful to me. Any more questions?
There's one
or clarification.
Miss Eka, do you want to ask? You want me to ask? So Miss Eka here asks if the child is more confident in English than in Bahasa, and he use the everyday language he uses in English, then I think it's fine, yeah, Miss.
Yes. Yeah. Like what I'm saying earlier, now many children, especially in Indonesia and Philippines, because I'm just talking about where I've been, you know, I cannot really talk about other places that I've not been, because I want it to be very practical. So nowadays they're exposed to English language because of the movies, the videos, they're exposed to that. And we must admit that. And the people that they are with. So if they're more comfortable speaking English, that is considered their first language.
Yeah. Jadi bukan harus ini atau harus itu, tapi senyamannya anaknya. Misalnya anaknya lebih comfortable English, berarti dia merasa confident di situ, ya tidak apa-apa.
Right. Anything else before I go back to the slide?
I think we can continue, Miss.
Okay, so here I'd like to read this. As children learn to talk, they develop an implicit understanding of the systems, and they apply their knowledge of the four systems whenever they use words, whether for listening or talking, reading or writing, or viewing or visually representing. Students or children integrate information simultaneously from these language systems in order to communicate. No one system is more important than any other one. So here, like the activity that we did early on, you actually integrated the systems together to be able to understand that and to be able to relay, like when Miss Dea read it to us, relay the message, right? So it says here, no one system is more important than the other. They go hand in hand. But then again, like if you think about the phonological awareness, there's a foundation that you need to build in order for your child to learn easily and more efficiently, right? Okay.
Miss, sorry, what is
Yes.
is it four systems or three systems? How can I only remember semantic, syntactic, and phonological awareness. What's the other one?
It's the language, like when you're talking already.
Oh, okay. That's part of the system.
I know. I also like, should I just put three in there? But according to this article, it's four. But it's the language when you're communicating it already. So they go hand in hand.
All right. Okay.
Right. Okay. So here I'll read this. I shared this in my Instagram, but it took me a while. All right. Okay. Being Taught to Read by James Himes, Fields and Lee, 1987. So if you can see, it's an old one. When a child creates with blocks, when he communicates with paint, when he uses his body freely as a means of expression, he is being taught to read. When a child uses his whole body, two eyes, two hands, two arms, two legs, and knees and feet, to pull himself up as a scary slanted climbing board, he is being taught to read. When a child hears good adult language, when he has the fullest chance to see his own language, he is being taught to read. When a child looks ever so carefully at the scale in the store or at the life in his aquarium, he is being taught to read. When his year is a series of mind-stretching, eye-filling strips, helping him know more solidly his world, he is being taught to read. When a child has the chance to hear one good story after another, day after day, he is being taught to read. So here, if you can see, it doesn't really mention that when you sit down with your child and ask him to write and read, he is being taught to read, right? It says here, when your child creates with blocks. If we look at it, it doesn't really make sense to us. You're playing again, come on, let's read. Oh, painting again, it's so messy. Come on, let's read. No, they are learning to read while they're playing with blocks. They're learning to read while they're painting.
Yes.
Why? They're processing information in their head. It's visual. So reading is very sensorial as well. And eye coordination is very important when reading. So I mentioned earlier, when you're reading, right, you have to point to the word from left or the sentence from left to right. It is also very important to be mindful well, not all the time. Like if you're teaching your child, always move from left to right because you're training the child's eye movement. Okay, from left to right. Sometimes a child has difficulty reading because of the eye movement or like a problem like myopia. And another way to build that or strengthen our eyes or the children's eyes is to get them outdoor, let them play outdoor. Okay, like here, when a child uses his whole body. So when your child is playing outdoor, he is definitely using his whole body, right? And he is being taught to read, climb slanted climbing board, climb a tree. I know it's scary for us, but let's just trust them that they can do it. Perhaps most of us have done it when we were young, right? Because we were trusted that we can. When a child hears good adult language, I think I've also mentioned that when we speak to our children, we have to speak clearly. We have to use adult language. We don't, as much as possible, we don't use baby language, right? Let's name body parts as they are with confidence without giving any meaning, you know. If they're using the toilet, use the exact words, adult language, right? Because they are learning that. Remember the semantic and the syntax of the language. When he has the full chance to see his own language when he start talking. I want to share this. My niece, who just turned 2 years old, compared to my other nieces, she started talking later. But when she started talking, it's very fast. At 2 years old, she can speak complete sentences. And then I noticed in the beginning, she would practice the word like water, you know. There was a time she wanted to ask me for water. It's so nice to observe this with children, like to really see that. So one of the good things during this quarantine, I've been able to really observe children closely because I don't have my own. So when she wanted to ask water, usually she would just give the cup or point to the cup and she was not speaking yet. But when she started, I observed her saying, so she was practicing it. And then eventually she said that's the very first time. So it was magical moment for me. She said, water, water. And I could see the lit from her face, like I said it, you know, like that feeling of, you know. So I've witnessed a lot of first word moment with a 1-year-old child, and that was really meaningful. Like water, water, right? So there, he had a chance to see his own language, to process it and to be amazed that he's able to say it, right? So when a child looks ever so carefully at a scale or anything or outside or everything around your house, he is already being taught to read. I think this is very straightforward. So I think I will end my talk on that, and let's do the question and answer because we went beyond our time.
Yeah.
And yes, the message is thank you for joining us. It is a pleasure to be with you.
Yay.
Right, so we're ready to answer questions.
Do you want me to translate the poem or what?
Or maybe we could share that with them because I know we're taking so much of their time already.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the questions that some of them asked at the beginning. Let's see if we can answer this. So this is from Miss Eka, yeah. So his child is 5 years old. At the school, they use English. Okay, wait a minute. Let me translate this. Okay, Miss Eka is Miss Eka here? If Miss Eka is not here, maybe. Oh yeah. Okay, so the question is, so when his son or daughter is 3.5 years old, he went to school where the language they use at school is in English, but then at 5 years old, they changed to a school where the language is in Bahasa, but then because the child already taught to write and to speak the alphabet in English, she is or he is confused. So if the teacher, so he will say like the A alphabet. So in Bahasa we say but then he will say it in English. So the school, what's the solution? So I think there's a language confusion between like how to say the alphabet. And that's very common actually.
Yeah, it is very common actually. I've experienced that as well. And even if, for example, not going to like it's not about the difference between international school and local schools. It's just about a matter of pronunciation. Because I myself, like if I don't make an effort or like think consciously that I'm speaking internationally, then I will just speak with my Filipino accent, and you won't be able to understand that clearly because my is not the, like mostly like you must have noticed that, Miss Julian, when we were working together, when I'm very just comfortable, I would just speak with my own accent. And sometimes like Fina and our other colleagues will not understand my A. So it's not a matter of international school or local school. It's a matter of pronunciation. For me, I don't worry so much about that, but we could actually explain to our children. And it's also a matter of the school, the teachers, to be able to understand that. That, like, for example, that's a problem when we're doing spelling, and they will say, okay, spell cat, when they mean cat, right? So then the child will be wrong. But then it's also the teacher's duty to reflect, why was the child wrong? And it's a matter of communicating that to your child and to the teachers. And it's also a way of introducing cultural and language differences to your children. Like, because we speak different languages, we have different accent, and children, you will be surprised if we explain things to them, they will understand. We just assume that they don't understand because we don't try, but they will understand. So it's actually not a problem. Like in my class before, just the last one in Surabaya, because sometimes I get so comfortable with my children, they're like my BFF. So sometimes I just speak in my normal accent, and they will tease me, and they will talk about that. Yeah, because Miss Sheila is Filipino, and then we pronounce it this way, and it's become like we're so comfortable, and then eventually they will understand me, right? And then it becomes natural. So it's a matter of communication, I would say. But sometimes I know it's hard because some schools, let's admit that, some teachers are still not open to that. Some teachers are not open to the correction of the students, right? So they blame it to the children. But perhaps that's why doing this also is educating the parents to speak for their children. It's a matter of communication, communicating our intentions and our ideas to the teachers. So let's always think that we work hand in hand with them. So if you're listening to this and hearing this, and perhaps the teachers of your children are still not open to that, perhaps we can be the way to open that communication. Not to judge them, but to make it just, to have a dialogue with them. Like, my child is having difficulty with this because of and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. All accents, all pronunciations are beautiful. And I want to articulate that with everyone, because I personally have been very conscious about it, and it shattered my self-confidence. And I'm already a grown-up, right? So it's our duty as a grown-up to communicate that with our children. I hope I made that clear.
Ya, jadi menurut Misila dan menurut saya juga ini ya, sebenarnya nggak masalah kalau anak itu agak sedikit bingung karena mereka ganti gitu ya dari bahasa Inggris. Itu proses belajar ya. Jadi eventually lama-lama mereka juga akan ngerti bedanya. Tapi kita ya bukan mendiamkan saja, kita bisa menjelaskan, dan sebenarnya anak-anak itu mereka bisa paham kok. Mereka tuh lebih pintar yang dari kita pikirkan begitu. Jadi bisa dijelaskan sambil kita menjelaskan ke pihak sekolah juga. Kalau misalnya kita harus jadi advokat dari anak kita ya. Jadi ya itu memang anaknya masih sedang belajar dan itu tidak apa-apa. Sekilas begitu ya. Ada pertanyaan lain ini, Miss Sheila. There's another one.
Yes, please.
From Ravasa, but then I don't think she is here. Well, should we answer it? Because
if others would like to, perhaps that will concern others too. What do you think?
The question is not about reading actually. So her child is 3 years 7 months. So actually you have answered it. So how to stimulate so the child can focus for a long time. So we already did it.
Yeah, or maybe I can add to that, but the 3 steps that we did earlier, move, drink is the sip. So it's like move, sip, and swallow. That will help your child to not just to focus, but to calm your child down. So if your child is very active, of course, it's difficult to focus, right? So you need to let them move, release that energy, allow them to spin. Spinning is very good for their senses. It balances their hearing. So if you think like, I know it's so irritating for us to see your children spinning around, like, can you please stop right now? You know, I'm getting dizzy. But if you think about your past when you're still a child, perhaps you have spun around many, many times and we loved it, right? But as we grow up, like, oh, I'm getting dizzy, stop it. But spinning is very important. It balances their hearing and their, what do you call this senses, the tactile. Spinning, jumping, so get them move, drink water, swallow, take breathing exercises. So the finger breathing, you can also do balloon breathing. There are many on the internet that you can find breathing for children, balloon breathing, tiger breathing, if they're still very energetic, like take a deep breath in and roar as loud as you can. Some children are afraid of that. Some find it really fun. So those things, move, drink, or sip and swallow, and then breathe.
You can also use it, I think, before they have their online classes, because it's the pandemic now, they have to sit down in front of their screen. So maybe parents can prepare the children by doing the steps that Miss Sheila has explained to us. Okay, now,
hang on, Miss Julian. And also, think, how long have you asked your child to focus and sit down? Children should just really sit and focus for about 10-15 minutes. They need to move after 15 minutes, after 10 minutes. So if you're, for example, you're doing the online class, if they're still going on, I'm sorry, I have to say this, 15 minutes, that's more than that. Maybe you just turn off, like close your video, and mute your audio, let your child move for the sake of your child, if the schools don't really realize it. Because sometimes, I'm guilty of that too. We're getting on so enthusiastic about our lesson and we forget. But it's a must that they should move from like 15 minutes, maximum 20 minutes for older ones, like 5 years old, 6 years old. But that is actually long. Because even for grown-ups, there are researches that prove that we can only retain information for about 25 to 40 minutes. Beyond that, we are not able to retain information anymore. So actually, I'm doing you, I'm, for asking you to sit. I wanted to move a while ago, but so you need to move within like 40 minutes. So think, maybe you're asking too much already from your child.
Oke, jadi kalau misalnya banyak banget ya parents itu pas online school ini mengeluh atau sharing aja, cerita aja, aduh anakku nih kok nggak bisa duduk diam gitu ya. Padahal ya anak-anak itu tidak semestinya tidak duduk diam gitu loh. Jadi tadi misalnya sudah dijelaskan 15 menit itu sudah cukup, 20 menit paling lama itu untuk anak yang sudah lebih tua ya, 5-6 tahun misalnya ya. 5 to 6 years old, 20 minutes. Yeah. So if they are younger, jadi kalau misalnya anak 3 tahun.
Actually, Miss Julian, 20 is already very long. But if you can see your child still okay, then fine. But if you see your child is doing this already, get them to move.
Ya, sama aja kalau misalnya kita mereka duduk terlalu lama juga mereka nggak dapat apa-apa karena memang pada dasarnya mereka tidak bisa belajar kalau duduk terus itu, mereka they have to move gitu. Jadi kadang saya juga bingung menjelaskan ke orang tua ya karena mereka memang ini karena pihak sekolah itu nanti apa sih gurunya yang akan marahin kok jalan-jalan kok apa, padahal seperti misalnya tadi bilang mungkin kita bisa membantu anak misalnya di videonya ditutup sebentar atau gimana. Jadi kitalah yang sebagai orang tua yang harus jadi advocate anak kita gitu loh. Jadi jangan sampai anak kita merasa anak kita nggak dapat apa-apa. Setelah nggak dapat apa-apa mereka juga tidak suka belajar. Jadi malah menghambat belajar mereka gitu. Okay.
Actually, focusing is a very big topic as well. Right. Yeah. Perhaps
that's for another day.
Any other questions?
Okay, Miss Vida here have a question. Miss Vida, do you want to say to Miss Sila yourself, or you want me to, since you are on?
Maybe you.
So Miss Vida, because you send it to my DM, Miss Vida. So do you want me to read it, or you want to say it yourself?
I will read. My question is, what kind of reading material we have to teach to kids who are in 3 years old? Their pronunciation actually is not good enough yet. Sometimes I confused to comprehend their language because when I talk to them, what are you talking about? Sometimes I just think like that, and then I got difficulty. What kind of material first to teach her in reading?
Do you understand, Miss, or do you need
Yes,
to...
yes.
Okay.
Miss Vida, may I know the context? Is it in school or at home? Like the children that you're, or the child that you're talking about? At home. All right. So if at 3 years old, the child is not articulating the words or pronouncing the words properly yet, let's assess the grown-ups on how we have been talking to the child. So we have this time, because he or she is already 3 years old, then we have to make a conscious effort of speaking to the child slowly and really looking, like what I said earlier, looking at the child and articulating the words. But let's do it in such a way that will not make the child feel uncomfortable. Because sometimes the more we say, I'm sorry, I don't understand, like, you know, like if we repeat that you don't understand, it actually make the child, you know, okay, I don't want to say this anymore. Because I noticed that with even my 2-year-old niece, if she said something and then we didn't get it for how many times she said it, she wouldn't want to say it anymore. But let's think that the children are developing their hearing. For the children to be able to speak, they need to develop their hearing and then their articulation. Since your child is 3, this time you have to observe that. You have to make a conscious effort to pronounce the word clearly to the child.
Okay.
And make sure that your child is seeing how you open your mouth. Because I noticed this, there are many parents, some teachers as well, like what I said earlier. The child is here and we're actually communicating with the child, but we're doing something, we're cleaning, but we're talking to the child. That's a lot of effort for the child to understand. Right? So this time, just make a shift in your approach with your child to really focus. When you're talking to the child, look at your child. Speak to her directly instead of talking and doing something else. And then what reading materials, like what I showed earlier, like Dr. Seuss, very little words, like three word sentences, 4 word sentences, and then articulate that clearly. Hop on, the pop gets, something like that. So do not read long stories yet until your child is comfortable with the language. But the very essence is speak with intention and clarity.
Okay. Uh, I have the next question. Is it okay?
Sure.
Okay. How to solve the problem of reading skill of students in international school who got difficulty in comprehending the content of the first language. I found this in my school. The student got difficulty in understand bahasa, and I think they are better in comprehending English than bahasa. If it happened to other school also, or
So
maybe
this
only.
one, okay, sorry. This one you're talking about like comprehension in reading, like when they're reading a story or they're listening to the story in
Yeah.
Bahasa, right? Actually, that's a very big topic, you know. You could do the whole language approach. So this is a very, very brief one, very quick one. So what you could do before you read the story, pick out important words, 5, 3. So these are, that's why I introduced just 3 main ideas here. So you could choose 3 words if the story is not very long. 3 words, those are the very difficult ones, or you think the very important ones. Or 5 words, if the story is long, then 7. Okay, so these 3, 5, 7 words that you pick out before you read the story to the child unlock the difficulty of the word. So, for example, a word in Bahasa, this. So you introduce it in such a way that the child could relate. Maybe it's an action word. Act it out. Tell a story. Like, for example, your word is, I'll just use in English, for example, the very hungry caterpillar. Munch. What else, Miss Julian? Munch. Give me 3. Munch. Anyone? The very hungry caterpillar. Munch.
Sorry?
Can you give me 3 words from the very hungry caterpillar? Munch. What else?
Munch is the fruits. Can it be the fruits or the days?
Maybe no, not yet, because that can go something like, because munch is something that is not usual, like perhaps, right? It's a bit difficult for them. Munch. Okay, let's just think, let's say munch, for example. Tell it in such a way, introduce the word in such a way that the child could relate. You know what? Okay, I had a cracker this morning and I open it and then I munch it. Put the word on the board, munch. Let's say the word munch. Can everyone munch? Munch. So you could introduce the word in Bahasa. So it's an effort, it's a process. You don't just make the child understand. The child doesn't understand. No, make an effort. So introduce, unlock words, difficult words. And then tell the child what's the context of the story. Remember the syntax and the semantics, right? The context related to their prior knowledge. You must know your children. So, for example, the story is The Very Hungry Caterpillar in Bahasa. So, the story is about a caterpillar who turned into a butterfly. So, you could say, I have this, we're going to read the story today, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Oh, what do you think the caterpillar is feeling right now? Yes, the caterpillar is very hungry. What do you think will the caterpillar do? If you're hungry, what will you do? Eat, right, eat. And then you're speaking in Bahasa, right, eat. Yeah, so let's find out if the caterpillar will eat. If that's the one you want the child to understand. Or if you want the child to think about the becoming of a butterfly. Have you seen a caterpillar before? Or have you seen a butterfly before? Do you know where does the butterfly come from? Let's find out in the story. So you're giving a context, you're tapping on their prior knowledge. You're making a connection. You don't just, okay, let's read a story today. Da, 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 da. Of course, they will not understand that. You need to give a preview. What am I gonna get from this story? So the child will be thinking, "Ooh, I want to find out where did the butterfly come from?" Whatever question you left to the child before reading the story, or, "Ooh, I want to find out what will happen to the caterpillar." So the child will look out for that.
Okay, Miss, I think that will be the last question because it's past 4 already.
Right. Okay, so before we go, I'm going to ask a little favor from you guys. Just a little favor or a game just for fun and just to make because perhaps I'm really keen on doing this again and see where we could go. I'm really enthusiastic about doing this, but then I want to get to know you as well. So this just a little, where is it? Thing. So remember the symbols that I shared with you, and you have a screenshot of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you could come up, but not now, if you could come up with a message using the symbol, and post it on your Instagram if you have, and please tag Miss Julian and myself. Oops, sorry. These are our Instagram handles: SMAP_early_years, and they joyfully learn effortlessly. So just a message on perhaps what's your takeaway from this session, or something that inspire you, or how do you want to work with your child from now on. Just a simple message, and post it on Instagram and tag us, please.
Jadi nanti Miss Ila, so you're gonna be the one who has to decode, yeah, Miss?
Yes, so we'll be the one to decode. Just a little game for us, and to keep the connection.
A secret message.
Yeah, a secret message for us. Yeah, tag us on Instagram. Hopefully I'll get messages from your Instagram from you guys. I think that's all for me. And like what I said in the beginning, thank you for joining us this afternoon. It is a sincere pleasure for me to do this. And I hope that somehow I made my message across. Because maybe I talk too much, or like my ideas get, crowded. But thank you so much. Thanks for staying until the end.
Thank you. Jadi misalnya ini benar-benar antusias untuk share ke kita ya. Padahal ini saya nggak bayar loh ya. Dia ini trainer, experienced early child educator. Memang guru yang sudah pengalaman, tapi dia dengan senang hati mau share ke kita karena kita sangat percaya pentingnya ini buat orang tua. Tuh. Jadi kalau bisa nanti dikerjakan. PR-nya bukan PR sih, game sih itu. Sambil main-main kalau ada waktu ya. Sebagai hitung-hitung inilah, supaya Miss Ila dapat feedback juga, kira-kira dia sudah berhasil menyampaikan message-nya belum gitu ya. Oke, nanti saya akan kasih Instagram-nya Miss Ila juga di grup WhatsApp ya. Oke, Okay, anyone else? We're going to close this. Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Ila. Thank you, Miss Diana juga. Thank you, Diana. Ini kalau nggak ada
thank you, Miss Diana.
Diana ini dengan sukarela sangat membantu. Dia yang menyediakan Zoom ini supaya kita bisa sharing di sini. Dia juga sudah standby dari tadi jam 1:10. Jadi terima kasih untuk Diana yang sudah membantu hari ini. Dan teman-teman yang sudah stay until the end. Oke. Elizabeth muncul ini di akhir, biasanya mau ngajak foto ya.
Oh yes. Yeah, if you want to open your video now, so that I know who I spoke with today.
Ayo yang bisa, siapa yang masih ada, dibuka sebentar, kita foto terus udah ini kok. Kita udah mau selesai. Yang bisa buka? Halo Miss Nani. Halo Desi. Ada lagi yang bisa? Halo, Mbak Asri ya? Halo. Oke, ada lagi yang bisa? Kita Elizabeth yang bantu ya? Seperti biasa? Oke. Hitung dah. Elizabeth nggak dinyalain suaranya. Kamu hitung ya?
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, finish. Thank you.
Udah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.